Hey.
Hey. Hey everyone.
Hi.
Hello everyone.
Hi, I'm Gertie. Welcome to Open Table. We're really glad that you're here.
We're here today to start a conversation.
Some of life's hardest questions have to do with if there's a God,
if the Bible is true,
and what it means to have faith.
At Open Table, we want to discuss these things openly and freely.
You don't have to have the right answers or any answers.
We don't always have to agree.
But what we do know is that if we're honest
about what we think and what we feel,
we can grow together.
You're probably going to feel the need to say what you think
your table leaders want to hear.
But we want you to push against that.
Just be real.
Be natural.
And talk as you feel comfortable.
Most importantly,
most importantly,
just be you.
Well, hey guys, and welcome to Open Table. We're so glad that you're here today as we continue our conversation through the book of Joshua. Now, a lot's happened, and we've seen God be with the Israelites every step of the way as they take over the land that God has promised to them. And this week, we're going to take a look at a big chunk of the book, chapters 13 through 19. Now, we certainly aren't going to read all of that today, but we will see the blessing and inheritance that each tribe receives as the Israelites divvy up the promised land. And at first glance, it can seem like a long list of just historical events, but really we're going to get this amazing picture of how the church is meant to be one big family, knit together by our God. But before we jump into that today, let's start with an icebreaker question. So at this point in the book, Joshua has become very old, but there's still land to be taken. And God tells Joshua, not only will I finish the job by driving out the remaining inhabitants, but he tells Joshua to divide up the land according to each tribe of Israel. Now this takes several chapters of the book, and as there are 12 tribes, and there's so many details to sort through. Again, at first glance, this can feel like reading a history book, and I even tend to skim over all the names of the regions, the names of the tribes, and I think, why am I reading this? I mean, I can't even pronounce most of these words. What difference does this really make? How do all these random facts affect me today? But we have to remember that the entirety of the Bible is teaching us something about the character of God and the relationship that he has with his people. In these chapters, we see the vastness of God's family. We see that each and every tribe has a part to play and an inheritance to receive. And if you have chosen to give your life to Christ, you are a part of that family. You also get to receive an inheritance from your Father in heaven. But let's get real for a second. I think we are hard-pressed to find community that feels like this. Even in the church, we sometimes struggle to live life with one another in mind. But what would it look like for us to live life for and with one another? What might change in our everyday life if we, like the Israelites, cared about the details of each other's life? This leads us to our first question, and I really want you guys to be honest here. What kind of community do you see and experience in your own life? Isn't it fun to dream of the kind of community we want to see and experience? Whether you're a people person or maybe not so much, the reality is we're all created for community. If you'll remember, our main point last week was this: we are built for community. I think we know this intuitively inside of us, but do we really live like we believe this? So much of our culture and society is based on this false sense of community. I mean, we're more connected than ever with social media, the internet, and Google. And yet, how often do we spend time just having a real face-to-face conversation? Do you have anyone that you can share the deepest parts of yourself with? When you have fears, failures, triumphs, or trials, who do you share that with? Is it just Facebook? These chapters are showing us the amazing picture of God's family. It is the thing we were built for and created to experience. And the church today is to be an extension of that family. We continue to be bound together as brothers and sisters with Christ and sons and daughters of God Himself. So what would it look like if the church really believed we were and operated as that family? What might look different than the church we see today? Let's jump into another question here, and remember, this is a place to be honest and open, so let's discuss that now. These chapters in Joshua give us a picture of what the church, when it's working well, can look like. There's a similar account to the body of Christ that's found in Acts 2, verses 42 through 47, where it's describing the work of the early church and how they loved each other really well. It says this, "And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved." The church, meaning us, the followers of Jesus, we are the hope of the world. It's Jesus working in us and through us that's going to meet a hurting and broken world around us. We often look at the church as a building or a service we attend, but in reality, the church is the people who call themselves followers of Jesus. And true biblical community is found when Jesus is at the center of our relationships. What would it look like if Jesus was truly our focus as we connect to others around us? Even people who don't know Him or are far from Him. I know keeping this at the forefront of my mind would change the way I interact with others. I would probably have a more genuine love for my friends and family. And even strangers that I meet, I would see them as made in the image of God. This leads us to the last discussion question this week. And I want you guys to examine your current relationships. Are we living as though Jesus holds it all together? What might change if we did? And when you're finished discussing, spend some time praying for those relationships and asking God to be at the center of all those connections. Let's get into that discussion now.